Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is Monday, December 15th, and this is our weekly Hoops HD report. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We got John Teitel and David Griggs up top with me, John Salika and Joby Fortson on the bottom row. We're trying to connect Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org in here
Yeah.
at some point, but
Problem with airport security, I understand.
he's on the helicopter or something. I don't
Yeah,
know what's going
right.
on.
Yeah. So for him
But
not.
we're here to go over all the big news that's been going on in college sports in the college, not all college sports, just college basketball for the last week. But should we get right into things?
You're the host, sure.
Oh, okay.
If that's what you want to do.
I'm trying to.
We could
I'm,
do
I'm
any
trying.
number of
I'm
things. I
trying
mean,
to get the
we
screen share. I was
yeah,
stolen here, but
we
let's
could
get it.
do any number of things. I mean, we could discuss, I don't know,
How about we
the
discuss it?
weather, the
How about we discuss a team that the five of us were just discussing right before we started the show here? Let's start off in the Big Ten, and I thought, Mr. Titel, let me start off with you and get a few other takes on this as well, because I think the big story of the Big Ten this week was Nebraska. They go to Illinois and win that game, as well as picking up a 30-point win over Wisconsin this week, and sitting here as one of the six remaining undefeated teams in the nation.
I mean, I didn't think you could get any bigger than winning the inaugural CBC last March, but it's a good year to be a Cornhusker basketball fan. The men and women are both 11 and 0, thanks in very large part to Jamarcus Lawrence. He nailed the game-winning three in the final second of the win in Illinois last Saturday. They have two cupcakes to finish out 2025 before welcoming Sparty to Lincoln on January 2nd, and hopefully 6'10 Central Michigan transfer Ugi Jurusevicius, who is All MAC first team in 2025, will make his debut soon. He's been out with a back injury for the whole season so far. Until then, this is a tale of two stars from very different orbits. We got Price Sandfort. He grew up about 200 miles away from Lincoln in Iowa, and Rink Mast, who grew up about 5,000 miles away in the Netherlands. Both of them are averaging at least 17 points and five boards a game. This team is very good at defending without fouling. They only allow 14 free throw attempts a game, number six in the nation, or as they say in Holland, nummer zes in het land.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Griggs, I gotta give you let you get your couple seconds in here on Nebraska as well. This team is just, I thought they'd be competitive this year and good and maybe be on the bubble, but uh, what they did at Illinois shocked me.
it really did me too. They started off, they were holding serve. The first game that really got my attention that maybe they had something was that neutral floor win out at the Sanford Pentagon against Oklahoma. But when I say I thought they had something, I thought maybe that they were in the discussion for making a run at the bubble or getting inside of it. Now at 11 and 0, and you look at that whole collection, the win against New Mexico, the blowout win against Wisconsin. It was at home, but it was a blowout win against a fairly good team, and then going on the road and beating Illinois, which is that is a high caliber resume building win. That's the kind of win that could get you in the discussion for a protected seed. One of the bigger surprises in college basketball across the nation, I think. And this team is good. They're fun to watch. I think their winning streak's going to continue. And what an atmosphere that's going to be with Sparty coming to town on January 2nd. I was going to address this in my final thought, like some of the attendance or lack thereof around the country this year. But Nebraska, you all saw that Wisconsin game. My God, the place was rammed full. It's enthusiasm. There's a lot of energy around this team. And it's just really exciting. It's always fun to see a team have this kind of success that normally doesn't have it. And that's what Nebraska is doing right now.
Beyond the Nebraska story, Joby, the other undefeated team in this conference is Michigan, and
Wolverines.
and then they're just rolling. They crushed Villanova last week. They won
Mhm.
big at Maryland. I guess it was close for about a half, but that was it.
It
Yeah,
was close until they
Michigan,
decided they didn't want it to be close anymore. Sorry, go
Pretty
ahead,
much.
Joe.
and that's you're hitting on the trait here that is so impressive with him. It's not just the fact they've beaten some really good teams, some solid teams, et cetera, and some resume building wins. Hey, that's all great, but the margins are just unfathomable. And there's a reason why in a predictive metric world like Ken Palm, their number one, and I don't know the raw numbers, but I bet their raw number in Ken Palm is like way number one. It's not like, oh, we're barely over Duke and And Purdue or whoever else is up in the Kim Pom ratings. It's like no, they are way well ahead, and I didn't think they would have the balance that they've shown this year, but it's there, and I knew they'd be good, but they're Final Four good right now.
Yeah. And look at their schedule. If you pull them up, they did not get
Oh,
those metrics against, playing home bye games. I mean, they've played
well,
a,
They're the only ones who beat the Zags. They're the
yeah,
only ones who beat the Zags. They've also,
Oh, I'm
they
sorry,
got
I got Michigan
Auburn.
State on the screen there. Let me fix that. Go
Little
ahead.
brother.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. There you go.
yeah. But
Yeah,
look at
but that's
that.
fine. Four and Wake is a decent little team, as we all know. Wake's the only team they didn't blow out, and TCU's hot and cold. Truthful to be told, but TCU does have a few scalps of their own. It's just it's an impressive resume. When your quad three wins are like include at Maryland and Oakland, who has shocked a few, has made some shocking runs this year, then hey, you've done your job. Yeah, quad four is Rutgers. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, that's not a real quad four. I mean, we
And
all sad. I know your team's not that great this year, but come on, man. If that's your only quad four, no, don't blame the scheduler, blame the Big
right.
Ten.
And in looking,
Look at these Ken Palm numbers, by the way. I just highlighted them there. Adjusted offense, adjusted defense. The seventh best offensive and the best defensive team in the nation. That's just that combination is ridiculous.
yeah, it is, and it's adjusted to account for the heavy schedule. But I mean, I thought the schedule was impressive. Like it appears that they only bought 3 games, and that's Middle, Oakland, and then upcoming LaSalle. Oh, and McNeese is in there as well.
Well, and that is a buy game that's for most teams,
Well,
maybe not
the last
Michigan
time they
this
bought
year.
McNeese,
For
they
most
lost.
teams, that's a dangerous buy game.
Yeah,
Stalika, I did pull up Michigan State there. How about Sparty? They actually struggled a little bit almost at Penn State, but found a way to get their win in their only game this week and sitting here 9-1 overall, ninth in the nation.
At least they're not having the court off the court issues that Michigan's having in another sports. But fortunately,
yeah. Oh,
yeah, but as far as
boy.
what Sparty did on Saturday, Penn State has always been a bit of a dangerous trip, but they managed to survive it, win, get the hell out of there. So, in all, a pretty good weekend for Michigan State.
Yeah, and Titel, let me just mention one other team here, Purdue. We almost forgetting about them here. They lost the game and like they've kind of dropped off everybody's radar. Still a damn good team at the top of this conference as well, isn't it?
I would say so, Chad. They certainly got walloped by Iowa State, but they certainly have bounced back, and another tough test with Auburn coming up. I think that the reason is, as you can see, with their adjusted offense, it's the best in the nation, thanks to their point guard, Braden Smith, who's arguably the best in the nation and is within hot pursuit of the all-time assist record in the history of the sport. I think he'll get there, but he's going to have to average like 10 a game for the rest of the season to get there.
Let's take a quick look at the upcoming schedule here in the conference. And you mentioned that one big game coming up here, the Purdue Auburn game. Michigan State, their annual game against Oakland, a live wire Oakland team, Griggs here. That could be a fun game. Has a chance at least.
It should be a fun game. It's definitely worth turning into because it's an interesting game. Oakland, probably one of the front runners in the Horizon League. This one's been fun in the past, but I don't know how competitive it's going to be by the time we get to the 30th and 35th and 38th minute of the game.
At least tune in to
They're
see
yeah.
At least tune in to see the ugly Christmas sweaters that Greg
Yes.
Campy and Tom Izzo will be wearing.
Yeah, and that really is one of the cool things. I was going to let somebody else that knows more about it talk about it. John, go ahead. Explain what that is, because that is kind of a fun tradition that these two have.
This has become an annual fixture the last couple of years. I don't have the picture in front of me right now, but I think Campy used to have a legendary ugly sweater where he had like a deer head on the front and I guess the tail on the back.
Yeah, the tail, which extended from the sweat. It was ridiculous.
But I think last year, to your point, was also the first year where Campy and Izzo both had the matching Grinch sweaters.
Yeah.
And the sight of Izzo getting a technical in the Grinch sweater was just
yeah.
Highlight some of the other key games here. Interesting game kind of Wednesday night, Arizona State at UCLA. We'll get to the Big 12 here in a few minutes. Talk about Arizona State a little. Ohio State, North Carolina. That's part of that CBS Sports Classic coming up on Saturday.
Hmm.
Illinois, Missouri, little rivalry game there coming up Monday. Uh, and
Yeah.
and for Titel, your Penn Quakers, my Rutgers Scarlet Knights
Bring it.
in a game that could be a pretty close game.
I hope.
Uh, let's jump over to the SEC though, and maybe well, Joey, let me start with you here. Oh, well, actually, where do we want to start here?
I
Actually,
mean, at the
Tytel,
top, maybe. I mean,
well,
Vanderbilt.
Tytel, you actually want to discuss Vandy, so let me go to you
They're the
first on
yeah.
Vandy.
Start with them because I think they're the story of the league.
I
Yeah,
mean, I mean, this is just amazing. I
mhm.
mean, when you compare it, I think I said it last week. This is the football season for them all over again. I mean, just they're supposed to be good. Like Vanderbilt, like if you put Vanderbilt in your field in the preseason, no one's going to laugh at you. But oh my goodness, three tournament wins by my count right now with St. Mary's, SMU, and UCF. We'll see if those actually hold up over time. But those are teams that the only losses practically they have are to this Vanderbilt squad, and they've shown the balance. We've talked about uh, uh, Duke Miles and his performance of leading this team right now, doing so much from the point, and so Vanderbilt, they are the story. We'll see once conference play comes underway. The SEC might not be what it was last year, but it's still the best or second best league in the country. And we'll see if Vanderbilt can continue on this road. But they are playing well. They're playing solid, and give them credit.
Yep, Tytel, now you had a few thoughts on them as well.
Joe, we covered a lot of it. Just a couple additional notes since they are 10-0. I think they are worthy of a little extra time. As you see on the left there, they beat all these great schools with three letters: UCF, SMU, VCU. So beware LSU on January 10th. You're going to be the next one. And the offense is amazing, as you see, number 4 in the nation in adjusted offense up top. And if your name's Tyler, you've probably already received a scholarship offer from Coach Byington, as you see in the middle there. Tyler Tanner, Tyler Nickel, Tyler Harris. Three of his 6 top scorers are Tyler. And of course, if you share the same name as a character on Friends, you're out of luck because they already got a guy named Chandler Bing. Could we be more excited?
So it's Tyler passes to Tyler over to Tyler, and Tyler
Yeah.
scores. Okay. Um, as far as the rest of the conference goes here, though, a couple of other notable games. Stalika, I know you were thrilled to see the big rivalry game between Georgia and Cincinnati, two of Xavier's top rivals. But how about this Georgia team cracked the AP Top 25 poll today?
Georgia has been like one of the better offensive teams in the country and also top five just in terms of sheer tempo. I mean, granted, they did play with their food a little bit when they were playing Xavier back in Charleston, but they've just looked even with the Clemson loss aside, they've manhandled Florida State, and the Cincinnati game was close for a half, but they just ended up pulling away in the second half against the Bearcats. But you look at that duo of Jeremiah Wilkinson and Blue Kane, that is a dangerous backcourt combo for the Bulldogs right there.
Yeah, I think this is a really good team. I think they have work to do, but I think that they've shown that they're good enough to do the work. Their next three games are basically home bye games, and they got Auburn and Florida and South Carolina. Like of that stretch of four after the three home bye games, they need to win. I think two of those, and one of them needs to be one of the road games in order for me to really think that keep in mind, a top 25 ranking indicates that you're not just in the field, but you're in the top half of the bracket. I don't know if I think they're that good, but they're good. I think they end up in the field fairly easily.
Another big story this week, Griggs. It's Arkansas.
Yeah.
That was that was a real good game, and they get that win over Texas Tech, a real resume boost.
Yeah, and they had the win over Louisville, which is a really good win. But I think this one was even bigger because it wasn't a home game; it was a neutral floor game. If anything, it was mostly a road game. But Arkansas, it took them a while to get going last year. I think they're ahead of the pace that they were on a year ago. God, they got a big game coming up this week against Houston.
Against Queens? Oh, against Houston. Okay, Houston.
Yeah. And I think I mean, that's obviously huge for both these teams, because I think both of them are still looking to build their resume, and by the end of the year, it's going to be a lot better than what it is now for both of them. But the thing about when you go out there and you beat Texas Tech, a team like that, you're good. I mean,
And if they can beat Houston, they got the Southwest Conference regular season title all sewn up.
yep, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss the old Southwest.
The other story here, Kentucky, we beat up on them last week. They had a nice bounce back week, not only blowing out NC Central, but they get the win over Indiana and a little bit of rivalry here that's rekindled.
Yeah.
Joby, are we willing to say, hey, maybe they can still fix it this season?
Yes,
Okay.
because they have the talent and they have the ability. They needed to beat Indiana, and they did it in a solid fashion. And it was a showcase game. It's part of the V Foundation games, and it's the world was watching, and Kentucky delivered. This is the sort of team. I mean, if the field were put together today, they're out, but it's not put together today, and they get to build over time. And so we're going to see, what Mark Pope and the others can do down the stretch. And I'm not going to. If you count Kentucky out, you're failing yourself.
Real quick, joining us is Rocco Miller, Bracketeer.org, and from airport somewhere, I believe, or something. Rocco, thanks for jumping in here.
Great to be with you guys.
Yep, we were just in the middle. We just finished up with our SEC discussion. I was one of the team I wanted to hit on. I was kind of impressed with the LSU this weekend. Here they are sitting at 9-1 after beating SMU by 12 points. I think we all put LSU at the bottom of the preseason standings in the SEC. Were we wrong?
I don't know yet. I really don't.
Okay.
I thought after the Texas Tech game, it really exposed LSU to be kind of what we thought. There hasn't been a lot of solid before the Texas Tech disappointment, but this SMU win, especially winning by 12 and convincingly beating a good Mustangs team, shows they're at least going to be in the fight. And so I think it's a good sign going forward. But the SEC, as you guys know, is a war. Now, there's teams like Mississippi State that are a little bit down right now. Ole Miss is going to eventually figure it out. South Carolina's not supposed to be great. So maybe LSU has a place in getting into the top 10 of the league. But I really just I can't tell yet. But there's some promising signs for sure.
Definitely are here. Let's take a quick look at the rest of the upcoming schedule in the conference. We got a big one actually coming up tomorrow night here, Greg's Louisville at Tennessee.
That is really big. Louisville has some scalps already, but nothing like this. They don't have anything away from home even remotely as big as this. On the flip side, Tennessee, while they've played well, they've also kind of come up short in some missed opportunities, and I think they're going to get there. I think their resume is going to get there, but they still have some work to do on it. So sort of a stakes game there for both teams in addition to being a showcase game. And Vanderbilt goes to Memphis.
And to Wake Forest.
You want to talk about two teams that are going in different directions.
Yeah. Well, and we were, my comments on Kentucky, this is a big game. I think the Johnnies will take care of them, but this is your opportunity, Kentucky. If you've lost those big matchup games until the Indiana game this week, can you continue to be on the roll and take out the Johnnies?
Of course, we mentioned the Arkansas-Houston game earlier, also Auburn-Purdue on Saturday. So there are some really interesting, fun games. Throw in there tomorrow night as well, South Carolina and Clemson, a nice little regional rivalry, though South Carolina.
And don't forget really East Texas A&M going to the flagship Texas A&M.
Let's jump over to the ACC. How's it next? How about that? And first of all, congratulations for our first place team in the ACC. You see them at the top of the standings, 2-0 in the conference after an incredible week. That's 2 weeks. How about that Hofstra pride there? Wins against at Pittsburgh and at Syracuse.
Two
Wouldn't
road
that
wins.
put them at the top of the Big East?
Let's fix that. It's actually Duke up there at the top of the standings.
Joined our conference. They've really been a big help.
I will say this: when it comes to ACC teams getting selected if they're on the bubble, they better have at least as many road ACC wins as Hofstra does.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I think you're right. But we got a few stories here to discuss here. Taisha, let me start with you. SMU, we just discussed briefly the fact that they're lost to LSU, but give us a few other thoughts on this team.
Still 9-2. Two cupcakes to finish off 2025 means Coach Andy Enfield should be 11-2 when he hosts the Tar Heels in the conference opener on January 3rd. The key, I think, has been their experience. They have the second highest amount of D1 experience on the roster in the nation. And the good news is all five of their starters are in double digits. The bad news, the bench seems a bit thin to me. But point guard Kevin Boopy Miller is playing like an All-American. 20 points, 7 assists, 2 steals a game, shooting 42% behind the arc, leading the league with 92% at the free throw line. And we see the transfer portal is always going nuts with coaches bringing in guys left and right. But this team got it right. Their top two transfers, Jerome Pierre Jr. from Jacksonville State and Corey Washington from Wichita State, combining for 32 points a game. Good on you, Coach Enfield.
Not bad. Another story I think we've got to discuss in this conference. Griggs, go ahead.
I shouldn't have like, I think we got to look at California.
Okay.
Where were you going?
Well, I wasn't going there, but let's go there.
One of the things about Cal is that, we weren't expecting a whole lot from them coming into the year because, it's Cal. But, 10-1 overall in a neutral floor win against UCLA that's really aging well. The only loss does smell kind of bad. It was on the road. I'm not going to say that it's going to submarine them, but that is the kind of game that if you can beat UCLA on a neutral floor, you should be able to beat the kind of team that Kansas State is. It's real easy to dismiss their bloated record as being put together by the pastry cart, but I really like that win against UCLA, and I like how they've been playing, and I think they might be good enough to actually make a run at the bubble.
All right. I was actually going to discuss a couple other teams here. Joby, I don't know that your Virginia team did much this week, but
did what you had to. Got Maryland in a week, so there you go.
But actually, I hit the wrong button there. But the team that was notable, I thought it was Louisville. Yes, it was only over Memphis, but by 26 points.
Louisville is a protected seed level team. They are, and that's a lot of eye test right now because they haven't racked up a ton of the wins against the field yet. But you see, they paid gobs amount in the transfer portal. They have one loss to Arkansas, which is not ashamed to it, and they look amazing. Like once again, there's a reason why, despite not, in my opinion, the strongest schedule per se, at least on the elite side, you still have a very good Ken Pom number. Because of the games like against Memphis. Louisville's great, and they should I think they have a chance to challenge Duke. Duke's talking national championship opportunities, but Louisville has a chance to challenge for the regular season title in the league.
Rocco, kind of on the other side of things here, Rocco. NC State looked like they were turning things around when they crushed Liberty. I get they lost to Kansas, and Kansas is a pretty good team, and it was an overtime game, but they needed this win, and they couldn't find a way.
Somewhat disappointing for sure. It's an interesting case study. They go out to Maui. We kind of had them as the favorite pretty much going into that tournament, and they leave Maui with 2 losses. Shocking loss to Seton Hall at the time. Now it's actually a quad 1 loss. But we'll see how that ages over time. They've got one more crack at a good win with Ole Miss on December 21st, this Sunday, and that's
a tier 2. Yeah.
At this point, but it could age okay if Ole Miss sorts themselves out. So obviously NC State's now beholden to the power of the ACC being better because they're going to have to build their resume in the league. I'm still not giving up on them as a team. They absolutely hammered Liberty by 40.
Yeah.
So the talent is clearly there. They just got to figure it out in these close game situations. Losing by 5 to Texas out in Maui, that actually could have hurt them a lot down the road because Texas projects as maybe an NIT/bubble-ish type of team themselves, and then losing at home to anybody's not going to be good, let alone Kansas. So, yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But I'm not giving up on them. It's just now that they are subject to the strength of the SEC, or sorry, the ACC.
Well,
Yeah.
and Rocco, to add on, what you're seeing is they are like Louisville, like Virginia, like Duke. They're putting pieces together that are very high quality. And what's happened is I don't think NC State's pieces have yet, they could still, as you hint, Rocco, they have not yet really come together. You saw flashes in the Kansas game, but they should have put Kansas away, to be very honest. When Peterson
Yeah,
goes down a little
sloppy.
hurt, yes, little sloppy play. You could see the talent, but it's just the pieces just aren't quite there yet. It could happen. You're seeing Louisville's pieces looking pretty good. Virginia's are starting to look pretty good. Duke, enough said. But NC State's just a step behind those schools right now, but they could catch up. They have the talent to do so.
And with Darian Williams, I mean, we saw it in the NCAA tournament last year. I mean, he's one of the most dominant go-to players down the stretch. They haven't really unleashed him in the last few games. I think when we get down to like big time nitty gritty games in January, February, and March, Darian's going to be fully unleashed, and that's a big time weapon anywhere in college basketball, let alone the bubble.
All right. Stalika, real quick, on the kind of the bad side of the SEC, the ACC here, Florida State, bad loss to UMass, and Syracuse, that we mentioned already, the home loss to Hofstra. I don't know how Syracuse beat Tennessee earlier this season.
I think you're bearing one of the other leads here, Chad, is that Angry Frank actually went 2-0 against the ACC. Don't forget UMass also beat Boston College, so I don't know if they have any other games scheduled against the ACC. Maybe we should have put the Minutemen at 2-0 this week, not just Hofstra.
Yeah. I'll let me throw this out here for
that is 4 home bye losses. That in 1 week. That is, wow.
Well, UMass, those were neutral court games.
Oh, they were.
Hofstra
Okay.
did have like 2 true road wins, so
Yeah.
there is a
Yeah.
bit of a difference.
Okay.
I just got to throw this out there on Syracuse also. Again, how did they beat Tennessee? Team free throw percentage. They are 365th out of 365 teams. That is, I'm sorry, Syracuse. That's pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
Big 12 conference time. Oh, wait, sorry. Let's take a quick look at the upcoming schedule here in the ACC this week.
Yeah.
We already mentioned the Louisville, Tennessee game.
South
Briggs.
Carolina, Clemson. You mentioned
And
that.
big one Saturday is the Duke Texas Tech game as well. Huge
Yeah.
game actually Saturday.
Yeah, that one's really big. Texas Tech is not playing at the caliber of a championship team. I think they'll get there, but Duke is. And how about I think that Maryland Virginia game is interesting. I know it's a conference game, but
Okay. Let's jump over to the Big 12 conference now.
I'm sorry.
Why don't we Rocco, should we start at the top of the conference here with Iowa State? They, after what they did last week, it was a rivalry game. It was only by 4 points, but it was a rivalry game. And they
Wow,
found a way to
that was
Iowa.
It was a fun game. It was a tale of two halves. Iowa wanted to slow the pace down and just, take the air out of the Hilton Magic balloon, and it worked for a half. And then the second half was a totally different story. Iowa State came out completely hot, and it looked like they were going to bury Iowa. But then Iowa charged back. We had a good finish, but Iowa State survived it. I think the story of the week in the Big 12 was Arizona, John Teitel's team, going to Birmingham. And on paper, I thought it just looked like an awesome game. And Arizona just speaking of balloons, they took the air out of every Birmingham balloon that ever existed because it's two teams that want to play fast. But Arizona was just so much bigger. Like the size difference between Arizona and Alabama was so visibly obvious, and Alabama didn't know what to do from that point forward. We saw not to go too deep on Alabama here, but we saw Alabama run into that with Purdue as well. And Arizona, I thought, had a great game plan. They used their physicality. It didn't have to be all Koa Pete. Krivas is just immaculate in terms of his stature. And it's important to recognize about Arizona because they're going to have matchups like this throughout the Big 12 and especially in the NCAA tournament that they can exploit teams. If you try to run with this team, not only you have to deal with the speed, but you have to deal with the size. And I think that makes Arizona certainly a national championship contender.
I realized the game was in Birmingham and not in Tuscaloosa, but that is a hell. I don't know. I go back and forth between Arizona and Michigan. Obviously, they're both really good, but in terms of the strength of the resume, when you see a true road win at UConn and a mostly road win at Alabama, and you're talking about two wins like that against protected seeds in road games, that's freaking amazing.
Beyond that, well, Tytel, let me turn over to you. I think you want to discuss a team that didn't do much this week, but is quite very quietly put together a 9-1 record here, the Colorado team.
I mean, I could do 5 minutes on Arizona, Chad, but I agree.
You're free to as well as.
Yeah,
That's okay. I mean, the Buffaloes, this team started 0-13 in conference play last year, and I thought Coach Tad Boyle was still in rebuilding mode, frankly. He needed overtime to beat Eastern Washington, for God's sake, in early November, but then they won the Rocco Miller Thanksgiving Trophy with consecutive wins over San Francisco and Washington and Palm Springs. And had they not blown a 4-point lead with under 8 minutes to play at Colorado State earlier this month, they'd be undefeated. They should beat Portland State on Wednesday to be 11-0 before facing Stanford on Saturday in Phoenix for some reason. The key has been three-point shooting. 41% behind the arc is number 6 in the nation. And, some teams base their entire recruiting philosophy on convincing the best players in their state to stay home for college. But I point out each of the top 3 scorers on the Buffaloes went to high school in California: Isaiah Johnson, Sebastian Ranchik, and Barrington Hargris.
There we go. Joby,
Yes.
I guess there's a couple of stories, but let's go back all the way to last Tuesday night. BYU found a way over to get by Clemson. Big, huge comeback actually in that game after they almost came back to beat UConn earlier this year. And I'm starting to believe in this team.
Yeah, well, and the margins, the Clemson game is close, but they've typically had pretty good margins in their games. They're also, John, would be that 2-0 ACC because they also have a nice win over a Miami team who is actually a pretty decent team, as opposed to what they were last year. So yeah, no, BYU, I was I was wondering if the freshman actually was all that that was all slated. Well, a 20 almost 21 points a game later, I'm a believer. He can make it. He is making a difference. And BYU, they've always had pretty good. They've always had pretty good discipline and structure. I see nothing different this year. They are definitely in line for a second weekend right now, barring an upset, because they will be seated
oh yeah.
for the second weekend.
I think the one other story here, I know Tytel does not want to discuss this league, but let me throw it over to you. Arizona State. They're starting to turn some heads here. They both losses are respectable. Bobby Hurley's getting thrown out of games in incredible manners.
Well, Bobby Hurley, not surprising, but I think as we were talking about before we were going on the air, I think Joby had Arizona State as his first team out in terms of the J&G ratings.
The
And if you
bracket
look,
matrix did. I
all the
actually
bracket
have
matrix.
Arizona State in the field as an 8 seed right now.
I mean, I can see that. The Gonzaga loss is, although it was at home, against a high level protected seed, and the other game was against a pretty good USC team.
And Oklahoma got them,
Yeah.
made them look good this weekend with a victory over Oklahoma State. And Rocco's talked a lot. And I am a believer that Santa Clara is a legit, at least NIT level team.
Yeah.
And could be knocking on the door if they get on a little roll that they've stumbled a little lately. But anyway,
Yeah, now
Yeah, but I think my problem with Arizona State is if you look at some of these metrics that the committee has focused more on in recent years, especially these predictive stuffs, there are offensive, defensive numbers. Those are not tournament numbers. Uh, there's plenty of time for those numbers to move up, but so
and
is there fool's gold here in the resume that you're looking at so far? Is kind of the question.
potentially, I I mean, I don't think they have. I don't think they're built well enough to go to UCLA and win, but I think that they can hold serve certainly against Oregon State, and then I think,
Okay, Greg's, and then they play the Big 12 schedule. So
yeah.
other than
if
Cincinnati and
only they
K-State
had
at home,
if they
where,
only
where are
had
they
an
winning games?
opportunity with their
Well,
conference.
against teams that aren't Arizona, Houston, and Iowa State and BYU.
And BYU and
Yeah,
Texas
I,
Tech.
Texas Tech. Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
but
think there's also
I think that like if you're at, I mean, you named the top six teams in the league. I think that they can beat up on the bottom six. And
go
is that
back to the pro.
enough?
Let's say go back to the profile for a moment for the Sun Devils. If you look at the wins above the bubble, which is something that's been introduced the past couple of years, Sun Devils are in the top 25 right there, and that non-conference strength of schedule at 73. At least it's not triple digits like it's been in recent years.
And if
Usually
Bobby Hurley
sometimes with
keeps
a
getting
three in front of it, John, not just triple digits.
and if Bobby Hurley keeps getting thrown out of games, I mean that's been a difference maker. As soon as he gets ejected, this team goes on a rampage.
Okay. Sorry,
And,
Rocco.
and,
Rocco,
and
last thoughts on the team.
yeah, sure. If the committee keeps doing what they did last year, they're not even going to look at who they beat or who they lost to. They're just going to look at the lab. And Arizona State's going to be in great shape. So Joby's right.
Yeah.
Um, the rest of the conference, I would just say, Oklahoma State finally had their come to Jesus moment and lost to Oklahoma, but I still think they're pretty legit. That should be a good wake up call. They've already got a healthy amount of wins. The problem there is even more so than Arizona State's problems is I don't know how well some of these wins are going to age. A lot of them are at home. The Northwestern win I think is the most important one, and I just don't know if Northwestern's going to quite be a tournament team. But again, we're kind of getting to that point in the year where we start to see who these teams need to start rooting for. That's half the battle right there. You need the Northwesterns of the world and the South Floridas of the world and the Texas A&Ms of the world if you're Oklahoma State to become good. Otherwise, you're only as good as the teams you beat in the eyes of the committee, especially if you end up kind of towards the middle of the pack of the conference.
Also, we could have a developing story as we record this. TCU just took the lead. They've been down most of the game against Incarnate Word at home.
They were
just
down double digits for a good portion of that game.
They love losing to Southland teams at home.
Upcoming games here. There's a lot of games to be played. Unfortunately, not a lot of great games to be played. A few notable ones, though, include that Houston-Arkansas game, Arizona-San Diego State, Colorado-Stanford, Texas Tech Duke.
Texas Tech too. ASU at UCLA is a fun Pac-12 throwback. And yeah, I think that's it. Cincinnati Clemson could be interesting. But I think
Cincinnati's got to get a lot better, a lot quicker, very quickly.
That's also
The
in
one that
Greenville. That's
pops a
not going to
little
be
bit.
interesting.
Yeah.
it's a problematic game too, because even if Cincinnati wins it, it just makes Clemson look worse.
The one that pops a little to me, Chad, is UCF. When you talk about is Colorado for real? Is Arizona State for real? There's a lot of are they for real? You can put UCF in that same category. Mercer could be very tricky. I'm not saying it validates UCF if they win it, but that could be if you want us to talk about fool's gold, that could be the sign of pyrite right there.
Let's jump over to the Big East Conference. Well, we've had one conference game, so congrats to Butler. Stop the season right now. They are your Big East regular season champions.
Yeah.
Stalika, you are our Big East guy, though. So,
I was just going to say before you get to Stalika, I don't know how important this game is going to be in come March, but holy crap, was this an entertaining game? Anyway,
Yeah, I was going to say.
wait, hold on, one second. Griggs, can you tell people what game you were talking about?
the Butler Providence game.
Thank you. Okay, let's make sure we have some explanation about what we're discussing here. But yeah, yes, Stalika, let me throw it over to you. How about this Butler team? Are they for real?
Now, there may have been 5 inches of snow. It may have been like 10 degrees outside that day, but my goodness, there was like real hot on the court that day with about 30 some odd lead changes. And yes, they needed 50 minutes just to get a final score. And Butler, also, after also losing at home to Boise State, they needed to get a win to get back on track. And while it does mean we may have a few more questions about a team like Providence, that's still something that the Bulldogs have desperately needed in Thad Matta's second reign here at Butler.
Yeah, the losses don't look bad. Boise State getting a lot better. We'll get to them in a few minutes. Joby, you're excited about that. But Titel, UConn, cruising along here with just the loss to your Arizona Wildcats so far this season.
I'm so glad you mentioned that loss, Chad, because it's a sign of the times that as hard as you cheer for your team, you also cheer hard for their opponents in every other game that team plays. For example, I was thrilled when Arizona beat UConn last month, but somehow that win looks like 4 times as good this month because the Huskies have beaten Illinois and Kansas and Florida and Texas, and they open conference play by hosting Butler Tuesday. They might not lose another game until February, Chad. The key has been their defense. They're top 15 in the nation in field goal percentage allowed from both 2-point and 3-point land. And the scariest part is they're finally getting healthy. You got McDonald's All-American Braylon Mullins. He missed the first 6 games of the season, but he's averaged 11 points a game in his past 4. And senior Terrace Reed Jr., he's missed 5 games this season, but he scored 17 points a game in each of the 5 games where he's played more than 15 minutes a game.
The other story I think we got to discuss, Joby, let me throw it over to you here. Seton Hall. I don't want to believe, but should I be believing?
Yes. Yes. Good. I mean, I would be very. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we talked already about the NC State win out in Hawaii. They got, hey, Greggs, they got a road win. Yeah, I know
They did.
Kansas
They
State
did.
isn't just amazing, but yeah, I I think Seton Hall. I think Seton Hall's a legit threat, and probably is on pace right now to be able to play in March, deep, not beyond the first weekend, mind you, but they're a tournament team, I think, if they don't. But unfortunately for them, the Big East schedule creates pitfalls more tthan opportunity. Because I think they can still make the tournament even if they don't beat UConn. Yeah, in one of the 2 games they have. They can't. They need to beat Butler or one of the other quality teams in there. But there's so many pitfalls. If all of a sudden you lose to at DePaul, it just blows it up because you don't have anything to balance it out with. So it's more that I think that they are a tournament team with their resume, but my goodness, they have to be careful, and that's sometimes a tough thing to do week in, week out.
Yeah,
We saw
yeah,
in the ACC last year. This is the ACC from last year. It's the same story.
yeah, Rocco,
Yeah,
maybe that
and then Carolina can't slip up. Yeah, it's that sort of thing.
yeah, as I said, Rocco, that might be the story here with this conference is this could be like a two-bid league at this point also.
Yeah, I think Joby makes some really good points because with St. John's in Connecticut, those are 4 games Seton Hall will have. I think they got to at least win one. They got to at least go 1-3 in those 4, because it will help anchor what they've done in non-conference. And then you could slip up a few times in the league, especially on the road. But taking any kind of home loss to a bunch of these teams won't be good for the Hall. In general, I think they're gritty. I think they're tough. I think this is the type of team Shaheen loves to coach, and the players are bought in. So I'd love to see it continue. But yeah, you're right. Like most of the nights in the Big East, you're going to just be facing the pressure versus having the opportunity. I guess the other thing I'll say about the Big East was DePaul winning at Wichita State surprised me, and at least they have a pulse. They're 8-3. Obviously the disappointing home loss to Buffalo back in early November, but Buffalo's only lost a couple of times. Nothing super horrible after that. Northwestern hurts, losing by 2, but maybe DePaul can continue to excel. I don't know. I think that's the key for the Big East is you need like the DePauls, the Villanovas, Georgetowns, to stay just stay in that somewhere middle ground. Georgetown's got a good win, but they've really struggled lately.
Overtime for St. Peter's this week, barely. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Creighton and Marquette are the real story because those are two teams you've been counting on for years in this league, and they are completely off the radar right now, and that's kind of shocking.
Creighton looks awful. I mean, they look
to
awful.
lose at home. Creighton gets 15,000 strong every home game, so to lose at home to a team like Kansas State, that's a shot to the heart, honestly.
Yeah. Upcoming schedule here in the conference. Griggs, the big one might be tomorrow night here. Butler, UConn.
Yeah, I like this Butler team. I think they're much improved. I don't know if I like them enough to get all the way to the NCAA tournament, and I sure as hell don't like them enough to go to UConn and win. But I'll say this: this is just a hot take. If Butler pulls the upset tomorrow night, that is going to be a big win.
That will be a big win. St. John's, Kentucky, big non-conference game Saturday, and heck of a week for DePaul to start big conference play at St. John's, home to UConn.
Yeah, DePaul, much improved this year. I like them. I think Chris Holton's doing a good job. I don't know if I like them enough to get to the NCAA tournament, but I will say this, Chad. If they beat UConn, that would be a big win.
But I think there's also two other bellwether games we have to watch on Wednesday. Georgetown and Marquette is can Georgetown manage to hang on because they've been kind of slipping the past couple weeks? Creighton and Xavier, the Musketeers have been looking a lot better the past 3 weeks than the Blue Jays have. And then you get to Saturday, the Musketeers and the Hoyas at Capital One Arena.
Yeah.
It's not inconceivable.
Go ahead.
It's not inconceivable that Xavier could be 2-0 after this week.
It's not. Xavier playing really well. That Nova Wisconsin game, both those teams really, really need that one. You want to talk about a sense of urgency for both teams.
Let's jump over to the Joby Fortson Memorial Mountain West Conference. I don't know what I call it. Joby Mountain West Conference time. I believe that Wyoming just finished off South Dakota State. That game should have gone final here in a second. But let's talk a little bit about Boise State and that win over St. Mary's.
Climbed all the way back, and this is
okay. Wait, before we get started, that was the worst telecast I have seen in years. What drunken idiot was the director of that kept changing cameras every 5 seconds in the middle of the play? It was unwatchable. And I do a lot of drugs, and even I couldn't watch it.
All right, Joby, go ahead. Boise State. I'll put the T-shirt up here while you talk.
Yes, we all know, and rightfully so. Boise. Hey, I'll be the first. I was giddy because I could put a stake in their heart in day one to a team that was projected to be at least, in their usual spot, Dayton. But yeah, they're back in Dayton right now, and it's because they have two really. Both St. Mary's and Butler are in the field as we speak at this moment. And those are good wins. Utah Valley is a good win. So I'm, and I can excuse, we talk about NC State a lot, and we didn't talk USC, but USC's solid, top half of the field team right now. So, right now, Boise has climbed out of their hole. They dug themselves a big one, but they've climbed out of their hole. Now, the Mountain West isn't as strong metrically as they were last year, so they won't have as many opportunities to slip up. I always point to the Wyomings. You go to Wyoming, it's not easy, sort of thing, and it will look worse than probably the capabilities, would be. Though Wyoming's up to 60 in the net. I didn't realize they were so. So it would be tier one, but Boise's back, and I'm not ecstatic about it, but I got to recognize facts are facts.
Well, let me ask Rocco real quick about the numbers here on Boise. Interesting. All these metrics we have here, there's only two that factor in non-D1 games. One of them has to be Joby's JNG, which is not penalized that bad for the Y Pacific. KPI also factors it in, and I wonder if that's why they are triple digits in the KPI.
It's 100% Y.
Yeah.
It's 100% Y. There's no mystery about it. And I think, I don't know, it's interesting because I feel like if the Power Five teams for the most part. I know Cal played Dominican recently, but most of the Power Fives never would play a non-D1, so it's a moot point. And I feel like if it comes down to the nitty-gritty at the end of the season and Boise's right there on the bubble, they might make an example out of it. And that's kind of what I'm concerned about because
Mm.
I think Boise State's season should be defined more by what they did against the St. Mary's, how they played in Maui, which again, they didn't get their wins in Maui, but they've been able to go to Butler and win, and they've been able to win the St. Mary's game. So, and if they end up being a top three Mountain West team or top two, I feel like they've probably done enough, but I am concerned because David Warlock came over the top of my tweet about the Boise State game not meaning a lot, and I don't know why he would be making statements about it if they don't want to eventually maybe do something about that. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see how it
I
goes.
mean, different committee, but Tulsa got a pass. If you
And
remember a decade ago.
0.1% chance. That was Boise State's chance to lose that game to Hawaii Pacific. 0.1%. You
But-
play that game 1,000 times, Boise State wins it 999 of them.
I disagree with that because Hawaii Pacific played. Didn't they play Hawaii?
Yeah, they did.
And
They
they played them
lost.
tough. They played them tough. It was like a 2-point game at halftime. Anyway.
and they
Yeah, go ahead,
actually went
Chris.
on. They actually went on a little bit of a run at Hawaii in the second half, but Hawaii opened it up. But you're right, Rocco. David Warlock, while not on the committee, is in the committee room and he uses his voice and he talks. And if that was a point of emphasis to something Rocco posted on X Twitter, you got to imagine he's going to point out the same thing if that situation comes up again, which he should. Hey, don't forget about this game.
I
I think,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah. I just think if like a middling Big Ten team, like if Northwestern played in a local non-D1 and lost, I don't think they'd be bringing it up. I just think there's not any power in the Mountain West, and
Yeah.
and there's no committee member from the Mountain West. Don't forget that. So
Well, you
it
got to
could be a
remember,
thing. It could be a thing.
and there's not that many more chances left of their schedule with just conference play left, other than Titel, the Utah State games. And how about this Utah State team? They had a nice win over Illinois State this week.
Coach Gerard Calhoun won 26 last year in his debut in Logan. He's picked up right where he left off in year two as the Aggies snapped Illinois State's 7-game winning streak with a 5-point win in Salt Lake City last Saturday to improve to 9-1. They get the rest of this week off before the huge conference opener on Saturday when Colorado State comes to town. If anybody tells you they knew that Vandy transfer MJ Collins would be a star, they are lying to you. He scored about 7.5 a game as a sophomore at Vodtech, then 7.5 a game as a junior at Vandy. But apparently the third time's a charm because he's scoring about 21 a game this year. He had shot under 30% from behind the arc in each of his past 3 seasons. This year he turned into the real MJ. Apparently he's shooting 49% from long distance. And as the puppet always reminds us, the beehive is alive.
yeah. Another team from this league. I like this Wyoming team. They won a decent game tonight. The one thing they did have the loss at Texas Tech, but I think that they're going to be dangerous. The thing is that's a pretty weak
I'm
resume
penalizing
right now.
more for the Sam Houston loss than the Texas Tech loss, and they have
Yeah.
less chances than Boise to make up for it.
They
here,
do.
Chris.
They have a very, very narrow margin of error. I mean, if they're going to get inside the bubble, you're talking about not many strikes at all. But my God, on the court, they just look really good.
All right. Stalika, let's take a look at the upcoming schedule here for the Mountain West. Any games here that you're really highlighting? There's not a lot this week, but we do get into some conference play here.
I'm looking at a game like Boise State and Nevada, where the Wolfpack have also been. They're still in the top 100 of the net, and that's not a game that the Broncos want to be losing if they're going to harbor their own bubble chances right there. But Grand Canyon at Wyoming, that's also going to be the Lopes debut in the Mountain West. So we'll have to see how that goes when they go to 7,220 feet at Wyoming.
And I get to laugh at Griggs for saying how good Wyoming was next week when they lose to the Lopes at home on Saturday.
Well, next week I'll just deny that I ever said it.
All right. Real quick over to the West Coast Conference here. We talked a little bit about St. Mary's already with their loss to Boise State. But Titel, any other thoughts on the Gales?
I mean, Mark Few has owned this conference for most of not just the decade, the 21st century, but it's Randy Bennett, who's the four-time defending conference coach of the year. He's won each of the past three conference regular season titles, and he's won a tourney game in three of the past 4 years. The Gales actually lost two of their past three, but one was to an undefeated Vandy team in the Bahamas. One was to the resurgent Boise State team in Idaho Falls. They almost overcame a 12-point deficit in the final 5 minutes before losing by a single point, which is even more surprising considering their 81% free throw shooting is the best in the country. The only great opponent left on their schedule is the Zags, so I do like their chances of winning 26 games for the fifth year in a row, and it's due in large part to the all-conference first-teamer from last year, Paulius Morauskas, former Arizona player. He led the conference with 13 double-doubles last year. He had another one last Sunday with 21 and 11 against Boise.
You say they only won, but Rocco, let's not write off the Santa Clara team yet. I know they lost that game to Arizona
Oh.
State, heartbreaker, but I still like what I see from this team, don't you?
I do, and I think the losses before Arizona State were without Jake Ensminger, who did come back for the ASU game, so that was a key factor. Ensminger has been a big time glue guy, especially in the middle and defensive matchups, and he can produce offensively. But there, it's our first game back with him, so good segue, Chad, because I'll be on the call on Wednesday against North Texas and Saturday against Loyola Chicago, both games in Santa Cruz. We'll try to get you guys passwords because I have no idea
I believe they are baller TV games, by the way.
we'll get you. We're gonna have to get everybody passwords. So subscribe to Chad Sherwood's YouTube channel and we'll post it on there. But anyway, I think Loyola Chicago is obviously a disaster, but North Texas is a quality team that they can get right against, I think, in a couple of days. And I hope it didn't do enough to ruin the resume. I think Arizona State's a quality program. Obviously, losing the way they did at New Mexico hopefully doesn't hurt too much. New Mexico is now 9-2, by the way. I think if they can get back to that stride they showed in November, they're clearly a very deep team and a very dangerous team. But they've got to get back to their rhythm. I think when Ensminger went down originally, it kind of ruined a lot of the flow they had going. And I think on the negative side, like an underrated story is everybody made a big stink about Thierry Darlin coming over from the G League. Well, he's actually been a negative player so far, and so he's actually hurting the team, and so he's either got to get better or he's just not going to play anymore. And so there's just a few things like that they got to figure out. But again, I trust Herb Sendek. I just hope this isn't another Santa Clara year where they take a torpedo lot. Like if they lose to Loyola Chicago on Saturday, they're toast, and
Well,
they can't afford
That's
something
an
like
awful basketball team.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Joby, but I'm just
like
using that as an example.
that's like saying, well, if they lost to Chicago State, who beat
Don't
Loyola
diss Chicago State.
Okay, Joby, it's like saying if they lost a home game to Hawaii Pacific, but
True, but I don't see any Butler. I don't see any Butler or Santa Clara wins on that schedule.
Yeah, Rocco, I'm really wanting to like this team. I think that they're good. I think that they're better than I think their ceiling is higher, I should say, than what their current resume indicates. But it is a little, that when you're playing in the West Coast, you don't have as many opportunities as teams that say the Big 12 or the Big East or and the opportunities they've had, they just haven't cashed in. Like the New Mexico game, the St. Louis game, Arizona State, where they were up by, I think, 17 or 18 in the second half and didn't win. And are they going to get there? And are they running out of strikes?
real quickly here, Joby, the Zags, nice win over UCLA over the weekend as well.
I mean, we talked about them. Their only losses to that Michigan team we really like. So I mean, the Zags are a Final Four top. Because the Zags go out, they do great, and they perform against it out of conference. They once again are positioned themselves. If they perform in conference like they have for years, then they're looking at a one or a two. Because there'll be slip ups by someone ahead of them right now. And so if they wind up with only 3 losses at the end of the year, their 3 losses, maybe even 4, I think a 1 seed could be in their future, minimum of 2. They are worthy of it. They're good. I mean, it's fun. It's fun watching them just playing some.
Yeah, the upcoming game here against Oregon this week. Beginning of the season, I would have said this was one of their dangerous games, but Oregon has been so bad that I think 3 losses might be a stretch when you look at the schedule here. At St. Mary's, maybe the
At St. Mary's.
West Coast Conference tournament, maybe St. Mary's again. That might be it.
And then,
Maybe at Santa
and then
Clara.
at Santa Clara. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, we just talked about Santa Clara. Santa Clara will need that win if they even want to dream about it. So and it's late in the year. It'll be
I
a big
like Santa Clara. They just got to get some big wins.
and that's where and the Zags are where we'll have to rest. So, but
Yeah,
as it
They've beaten Gonzaga before, so it's not
they have.
impossible.
Yeah.
Twice in the last couple of years.
Here's the upcoming schedule. I mentioned that Gonzaga Oregon game. Northern Iowa at St. Mary's, an interesting game coming on Monday night as well.
Should be a fun one. That's a real good one, actually.
I'll be there. I'll be there, Chad.
And
Of course you will.
how about the Battle of Washington of Seattle here? Washington at Seattle on Friday
The
night.
Seattle Redhawks have a 1-game winning streak in the series after losing 15 straight.
well,
There we
that's
go.
a tricky game. Seattle's not half bad. That's tricky.
Yeah, they
Now,
got
is that a
players.
Climate Pledge arena, or is that
Climate
going to be in
Pledge.
the bandbox?
Climate Pledge.
Uh, A10 real quickly here.
Couple things.
Ty-
couple things to
Tytel,
discuss.
Tytel, George Mason sitting here at the top of the conference standings. Win over Old Dominion this week, I believe. A few thoughts on them.
I mean, they won the first A10 title in school history last March. Coach Tony Skinn has not missed a beat this season. 10-1 should beat Loyola to improve to 11-1 on Sunday. Then they get the whole week off to prepare for my Quakers coming to Fairfax on December 28th. The schedule has been pretty weak, frankly, but transfers Riley Allen Spock from Samford, Corey Mincy from Presbyterian have been very strong. The 2 juniors combining for 30 points, 10 boards, 5 assists a game. I love the defense. They're only allowing 65 points a game, top 25 in the nation. What I do not understand is the 3-point shooting. They're 12th in the country. They make 40% behind the arc, but they only take 19 threes a game, which is bottom 40 in the country. Chad, if you can make them, why don't you take them?
Don't ask me. I'm not Tony Skinn. But I'm sure you'll be at the Penn game. Maybe you can ask him after the game. But I guess one of the other stories here, Stalika, St. Louis.
Yes. Let's
How
discuss.
about this team? Real nice win over San Francisco this week. A San Francisco team that's been a little disappointing, but maybe because they lost this game to St. Louis is one of the reasons they're disappointing.
I almost feel like I should be passing this off to Griggs, is because the fans in St. Louis haven't really shown up yet to see the Billikens, but they're missing out on a pretty good show, while their schedule has been rather atrocious by non-conference standards. This is still a team that's going to be top 30 in the net, and they still have that close win against Santa Clara back in one of about 10 different Acrisure events back around Thanksgiving weekend. Now, their next notable game isn't going to be until New Year's when they head to Richmond to play at VCU.
And part of this is, I mean, scheduling in general has been kind of weak. I don't know if they just underestimated how good they were going to be, or if they tried to get better games and couldn't. I don't really know. But to your point, they're off to an incredible start. They had a pretty good San Francisco team at home, and you turned on the game, and it's just like, did they forget to unlock the doors? Where are the people? And I know SLU has not been good in a while. Maybe the fans sort of, I don't know, forgot about them. But they're good this year. I think they can get inside the bubble. I think they're that good.
Yeah. I think they're the one team from a non-true traditional power conference, along with that team from the Mountain West that's under the radar, Utah State. St. Louis, I think they can be inside the bubble. I really do. They need to take care of business. The A10 is better than it's been in a long time. Look at those. Look at the numbers of the Nets. That's a lot of tier 2 road wins and tier 1 road wins. They could turn into it from not just VC. It's not just VCU and Mason. Richmond's right there, and you
Richmond, I like them.
The Bonnies, Davidson, Dayton. They're all those are, and they can afford then a tier 2 loss on those roads. I'm not saying they can collect a lot of them because you're going to need them, but you're going to need to show without a lack of strong wins. Santa Clara once again pops into our conversation, but but they have an opportunity here to put up a really strong record with metrics that look pretty sound. I mean, that net right now is a perfect example of that. Already top 30. Yeah.
Yeah, they're there on some of these metrics. Real note, George Washington would be a lot higher. They had an awful week, home loss to what had been a very bad Delaware team, and then they lose the game to Florida as well as part of that Orange Bowl Classic there on Saturday. Uh, Upcoming schedule, I guess we would focus in on the St. Louis and the Mason games here, none of which really would move the needle for either team, though.
And don't
Um,
forget Dayton. You don't want to forget
Dayton,
about
Liberty
them.
at Dayton would have been a game we were highlighting, but they
Yeah,
just game has not. Neither team has been there this year from what we
yeah,
thought they would be.
yeah. And then Dayton kind of I mean, they did play Virginia, who's really good. Still don't have that signature when they need to kind of get themselves into the spotlight. But I still think that Dayton can be dangerous once conference play starts.
I agree.
Dayton,
St. Bonaventure also had a missed opportunity on Saturday when they were in Cleveland. They played OU, but ended up losing that one in what was kind of
uh,
a split crowd, at least in terms of
That
who
was
they
a
were
bad
following.
loss. They needed that. That Ohio, you not the best this
yeah,
year.
They were knocking on the door of like that NIT invite range when you're sitting 11-1 out of conference. I don't care who you are. I don't care how bad the schedule's been. The gaudy record at least screams NIT. Then you stumble against the Bobcats, and some of those dreams might be going away.
uh, Real quick over the American and Rocco. Um, I'm not certain that this conference even belongs to the show anymore. Maybe we should do them on Wednesday night, but we still have Tulsa. Uh,
We still have Tulsa, and Tulsa's been pretty impressive. I'll be honest.
Yeah, but
I know they're kicking themselves for blowing that Kansas State game because they'd be undefeated if they didn't blow it. They had missed free throws, they had turnovers down the stretch. They were winning for 30 plus minutes of that game. But with all that being said, they were able to be the better team against a good Northern Iowa team. They
Mhm.
played a pretty good New Mexico State team in the middle of Frisco, Texas on Saturday and totally dominated.
yeah, they did.
And I feel like every time Tulsa takes the court, they're getting more confident and more comfortable, and that's a really good sign because, as you know, in Eric Konkel's first 3 seasons, they've been really down, and that's been frustrating for him personally. He had a lot of success at Louisiana Tech to get the Tulsa job, and now finally starting to get the right pieces in place. He did an amazing job, whether it was resources or his own, orchestration in the portal. But to be able to get Miles Barnstable out of St. Thomas, their best shooter, that's a huge weapon. David Green's a player. Tylen Riley's been an awesome facilitator. And Adi Papula is an excellent wing player, but even better defender. And so now Tulsa's starting to figure it out both offensively and defensively. And those are the ingredients you need to be able to win the American Conference tournament, regardless of what their seed is in the conference tournament.
and just a quick note, the American going to a ladder format, so top two seeds will buy right to the semifinals. They probably will only have to win 2 games in that event.
Yeah.
Tulsa needs that this year if they have any chance.
Yeah.
They can't afford to lose
God.
to a bad team.
It's still going to be a lot of tough trips. I mean,
Yeah, it
this
is.
league geographically is hard.
Yeah, and some of these teams are just like they haven't always played up to their ceiling, but they have high ceiling. Like North Texas is good. South Florida's had some good
South Florida
moments.
jumps
Wichita
out.
can
Yeah.
be good. They're not good consistently enough for them to be in the discussion to get to the bubble, but they're good enough to beat you if you overlook them or if they have an on day. So it's not going to be, while Tulsa is clearly the best looking team, I kind of agree with, I think, Rocco's point that they won't necessarily run roughshod over this league. They might
Yeah.
win it, but they're not going to blow through it necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
North Texas is getting better too. They've been on a nice winning streak.
yeah, North Texas is good.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing them on Wednesday. By the way, Baller TV, free password on Chad's YouTube channel.
North Texas, Santa Clara there coming up Wednesday. But the other games here, note the 2 Tulsa games at Western Kentucky hosting Denver. Memphis with 2 interesting games hosting Vanderbilt and at Mississippi State, but they have just not been able to find ways to win games so far
Yeah,
this season.
I love how Memphis scheduled. I'm a really big fan of it. The Louisville series is finally back. I just don't like how Memphis has played, but at least they scheduled good.
Let's jump over to final thoughts here. And Tytel, let me start with you because I know we need the screen share.
So I know that Joby discussed BYU earlier in the show. I want to make sure everyone sees the win probability chart from their game against Clemson in the Jimmy V Classic last Tuesday. The Tigers had a
This is
21-0
from
run
Ken
over the
Palm,
final 7
by the
minutes
way.
of the first half, and they were up 44-22 early in the second half. You see on the bottom of the curve in the middle there. AJ DeBonsa had only made 2 of 6 shots in the first half. Richie Saunders was in the middle of an 0 for 7 night from behind the arc. And then the second half happens. DeBonsa scores 22 of his career high, 28 in the second half. He outscored Clemson by himself in the half, 22-21, to bring them all the way back. They still blew a 6-point lead in the final 70 seconds, which is why the graph almost goes back down. But then Robert Wright III made a 3 at the buzzer to give the Cougars a 3-point win, the largest second half comeback in school history. And speaking of the Jimmy V Classic, I know the famous line is "Don't give up, don't ever give up," and it's about fighting cancer. But I think it also applies to a team that flies across the country, sees one of their senior leaders have an ice cold shooting night, but as a freshman superstar decided that for the final 20 minutes that night, he would not give up.
I think if they had Cincinnati and Pittsburgh.
Real quick, I'll tell you, Tytel, that's only the second best line from Jimmy V's speech. The first, obviously, is your family, your religion, and Rutgers basketball.
In the Green Bay Packers.
Stalika, let me go over to you next.
Yeah, I was going to say if Cincinnati and Pittsburgh were in the Jimmy V Classic, people probably would give up. But no, as far as
a classic, yeah.
But as far as my final thought, I want to go back to Tulsa for a moment. It was about 11 years ago when Frank Haith was their first year head coach. They were just beginning in the American. They also had a rather damaging non D1 loss to Dennis Rodman's alma mater, Southeastern Oklahoma State. And that was a team that ended up getting a number 2 seed in the NIT as a result. Now, it was the following year where it was mentioned earlier in the show, they had that 0.1 chance of being in the NCAA tournament field. The HoopsHD selection committee, we did not even have them on our board, but they still managed to get into the tournament that year. Just strange times for the Golden Hurricane.
One of the worst selections we've ever seen.
One of the
It
great
really
moments
was
of the J&G because the J&G had them in.
Yeah, it did.
Joby, let me let you go next then.
All right. So we've seen an uptick. Everybody knows I'm a Virginia guy. It's very fun to see the Virginia team this year's team average 87.1, a game. That's just remarkable compared to what we've seen in the past when, we very much cheer a 49-35 victory over Wisconsin. But there's another team out there with a score of 19 a game, 2 of 15, 2 of 9, 1 of 7, 1 of 4, 1 of 6. When you add up, and 1 of 11. When you add up, and 1 of 10, when you add up all of that, it comes out to 104 points a game. Who is that? The people who transferred from Virginia. Jacob, and one of those 15, Mr. Tytel knows, is TJ Power, the most Virginia name you could possibly ever have. TJ Power. He transfers to Penn and is averaging 50. We know Day-Day Ames, Jacob Coffey at USC. They've actually performed very well. Worley's getting time. Gonzaga. I mean, it's actually pretty interesting because a lot of success because they transferred McNeely to Louisville, Rhodey to Wisconsin. They went to Power 5 teams and for the most part and are still averaging those high numbers. So,
all right. Rocco.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the New Mexico Lobos for my final thought. Shout out real quick to Jeff Grammer of the Albuquerque Journal. It does an incredible job. I call him the dean of writers in the Mountain West for these Nuggets. But I think Eric Olin here in year 1 as the New Mexico head coach has done and I agree with Jeff on this, the best job in non-conference out of any New Mexico coach since 1972-73. If you look at the 2013-14 Lobos under Craig Neal, they go 9-3, but their best wins were home Cincinnati, who was number 68, and Marquette on a neutral, who was number 72. The road win at VCU right now is 63 for these Lobos. And you go to 0708, Steve Alford goes 13-2. Great record, right? All he got in the top 100 was a home win over Texas Tech in 0708. You want to go back even further? Even Dave Bliss's first year in 1988-89, there's a name for you. He went 8-4. And so as much as New Mexico loves their basketball and as hot as the program has been these last couple of years, and now spilling into the new era with Eric Olin, they've had some rough years. And he's done a commendable job because 100% of the staff, 100% of this roster did not live in Albuquerque at this time last year. So take that for what it is. It's the new era of college basketball. And he goes to VCU, and they were the better team. They just flat out were the better team, and hardly anybody can do that, especially at that Mountain West level. So kudos to the Lobos. They completely dominated a decently good Florida Gulf Coast team on Saturday as well. They had a hell of a week, and now they're in position to be discussed for several weeks to come.
They are. Griggs.
So this season and this week in particular, we've seen the rebirth of some like classic, I guess, regional rivals. Kentucky and Indiana. I think it had been 11 years since they'd played during the regular season, or maybe it's that since they'd played at all. Louisville, Memphis. I can't even remember the last time they played. I don't think people outside of that area realize just how bitter and intense that rivalry was. It was never as big as the Louisville Kentucky rivalry, but it was really big. So it was fun to see that back. We saw Maryland and Georgetown finally resume that series. I know it doesn't count all the way. George Washington and GW played, albeit in an exhibition game. I think it was the first time in over 50 years that they'd played, or 45 or something like that. Uh, so while it's good to see some of those games back on the schedule, and then Kansas, Missouri, while it's a few years into that series, was recently rekindled. West Virginia, Pitt, the border war, they started that back up. Um, I love seeing those series like that, but my follow-up thought to that is that why have all these games been so crappy?
That's a whole different story. But I guess on that note, I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll be back Wednesday night with an Under the Radar show. Next Monday with our another Hoops HD report. On behalf of John Teitel, David Griggs, John Stalico, Rocco Miller from Bractier.org, Joey Fortson, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us, and let Jim Valvano have the final word of today's show. The three most important things in the world. Have a good night. Talk to you again real soon. And